Okay, good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, July 27th. It's the last Saturday in July, which means we are inching ever closer to opening day. 76 days. Yes, 76 days to opening day. Ah, and yeah, these guys are hosting the first game of the year, the Watertown Wolves. That's why I'm wearing this jersey today. All right. Besides that, it's a very cool morning this morning where I'm at. So yeah, little hockey sweater action in the morning, and so there you go. All right. Today we're going to be talking about the rosters, rules, regulations, and how GMs and owners are playing roster roulette a little bit. So let's get into it. All right. There are a few things that I want to break down, obviously, as I have here written on the famed whiteboard. All right. A lot of people, especially people who are newer to the Fed, have been asking me questions about this one specific thing. And so I want to explain this as simply as possible. Because they understood that last year, as we went through the season, everyone had a 19-man roster limit. So people ask me, well, how come I go on, if I check out the roster to um, Monroe or to Hudson Valley, or how come there's way more than 19 on the roster? Okay, the reason for that is during the summer, as you accumulate your roster for next year, you're allowed to have much more. All right. Basically, the contracts that are being signed right now are not actual contracts per se. Okay. In other words, compensation for the player hasn't been spelled out. It's not the actual legal, the agreement with the player between the player and the team. These are all PTOs right now at this point, from July 1st until the beginning of the year. All teams, all players are just signed under a PTO that are signed. Okay. Um, Using as an example, Mo Levac. Okay, he signed a PTO with the Monroe Moccasins. All right, it's good to have Mo back in the league, by the way. So that means that he has said, yes, my rights, I'm giving my rights as a player to being owned by Monroe. Monroe is the team I belong to. All right. So it's not an actual playing agreement. It's just okay, we agree that you're gonna be on our roster and we're gonna protect your rights and everything like that. Or we may trade your rights if something comes up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for those PTOs, okay, there's two different limits here. And the reason for that is it takes a lot longer for new teams to build rosters than the established teams. It's going to be much more difficult for the Dashers to formulate the roster than it is for the River Dragons, for example. Okay. So that's why we have two different numbers here. The three non-playoff teams from last year, Blue Ridge, Baton Rouge, and Hudson Valley, which was Elmira, plus the three new teams, the Dashers, the Rock Lobsters, and the Moccasins, they all have a roster limit of 45 for the summer for PTOs that they can sign. The 8 playoff teams from last year, the 8 teams who were in the Commissioner's Cup playoffs, their limit is 35. So where the 19-man roster comes into play, that is, you have to get your team cut down to 19 that are now going to be signed under standard contracts by 48 hours before your first game. So for the first 4 teams that play that opening weekend, Watertown, Binghamton, Monroe, Athens, okay, they have to be whittled down to 19 by October 9th, Wednesday, October 9th, because they play October 11th. All right. So those 4 teams will also be able to keep 3 extra players for the first week alone. Okay. That's the 4 teams I mentioned. They'll have to get whittled down to 22 for the first week. The next week, when everyone else plays, okay, everyone else has to have their roster limited down to 19 by October 16th. And the 3 teams, or the 4 teams, excuse me, that had 22 the week before have to cut 3 for that October 16th deadline because everyone plays in the league on October 18th. So, all right, so I hope that explains that a little bit better. So, yeah, we have our 19-man roster limit plus the PTOs. Yes, the PTOs are back. The 4-game PTOs, you get up to 14 to use. And do the math, 14 times 4 equals 56. That's basically gives you an extra player throughout the year. Excuse me. All right. Now, teams use this in different ways. You can employ this however you want. The design of the 4-game PTO contracts is to cover for suspensions, players being loaned to the SP or the ECHL, injuries, things of that nature. However, you saw different teams implement them in different ways. And for example, Motor City, okay, they got their 14 4-game PTOs. They gave 11 of them to Jonathan Giuliano. Basically, they said, we're going to create an extra roster spot that doesn't count against us. All right. And so 11 of the 14 contracts that they had available, Jonathan Giuliano was signed to them. They used the other 3 to fill in, at times when they got, players weren't available or whatever, and things got a little dicey for the roster being able to field enough people to man a team. So, okay, let's sign a couple guys to PTOs. All right, that's the design of it. I don't think it's worth using, quite honestly. I think it would be better if the league just said, all right, instead of 19, our roster limit's going to be 20. We don't have any PTOs, because Motor City proved very effectively last year that they could, if they had a guy who couldn't travel to New York for a weekend, and they had a lot of these incidences, they signed some guys that were more local to that area for that weekend to a standard contract. Let them go at the end of the weekend. All right, and that's fine. I think the 4-game PTOs are redundancy myself, and you kind of hamstring yourself, because what if you only need a guy for 2 games, like Motor City? All right, you're wasting a 4-game contract for 2 games. And so I this is my own personal opinion. I don't mean any disrespect to anyone in the league, the people who have worked on setting this up. I don't mean it as disrespect, but just personally, I don't think it's a necessity. I think you just add a person to your roster, make it 20, and there you go. But that's me, just my opinion. All right. So we have that. Okay. As far as it's game time, your roster, of course, as far as who you can dress, is 18. All right. So let's say, using Motor City as an example again, their roster is 20 because they have the 19 plus Jonathan Giuliano. All right. So 2 guys sit out for that game. They're healthy scratches. Easy enough. All right. Of those 18, all right, you still have the statuses of players as rookie, pro, or veteran. Breaking it down very simply, a rookie is someone who has under 100 games pro experience. It doesn't have to be just Fed. It can be Fed in SP or Fed in ECHL, whatever. Under 100 games, you're a rookie. Okay, 100 games to 249, you're pro. You're at pro level. All right. And basically, the majority of the league is either rookie or pro. All right, veteran, you have 250 games plus playing experience. You're a veteran. Now, your on ice roster has to have at least 6 rookies. Okay, if you want to field all rookies, you can. That's your prerogative. All right, but if you want to have some veteran, you want to have some experienced leadership. Okay, you can have up to 5. 5 is the maximum for your on ice roster. All right, 5 veterans. So most teams are typically 6 or 7 rookies, a lot of pros, and then you have 4 or 5 veterans that are playing in most teams. All right, so that stays the same from last year. Where things get a little bit convoluted and complex is in the areas of a new point slotting system. All right, and I'll try and go through this as quickly as possible, but it takes some explaining, so bear with me. All right, point slotting. Each team has a cap of 50 points, all right, in which they formulate the roster. Not only do you have the rookie, pro, veteran guideline, but now you also have to abide by this point slotting system. And here's the easiest way that I can explain it, all right? It all breaks down by the level that you've been playing at professionally. All right. If you have under 100 games of Fed experience, it's 1 point. Okay. If you have if you have 100 plus games of Fed experience, it's 2 points. If you've been playing in the SPHL under 100 games at that level, 2 points. Over 100 points, 100 games, excuse me, it's 4 points. ECHL, 4 and 8. You see how this is kind of starting to build up. All right. Now, there is a max, as far as what I understand, of 10 points per player. So, so that's going to factor in just a second as we explain this. So let's do the math. All right. I used an example here, use one of my new magnets. To explain the difference, a couple of the team leaders in scoring last year. All right. Justin McDonald, he's been playing a long time in a lot of different places. Okay. He has 176 total games of Fed experience, 2 points. He has 234 games of SP experience, 4 points. So I have 3 plus 4. And I'm sorry, there's over 250 was 3 points. I forgot to mention that. So that's why it was 3 and then 4. All right, and then he has 176 games played in the ECHL too. So there's 8 points. So, yeah, I can't do math. That's a 15, not a 14. All right, so I haven't had enough of this yet. All right, so 15 points, but there's a 10-point cap. So he's going to be 10 points, Justin McDonald. All right, as far as Columbus's cap. Now, Ryan Hunter, last year was his first full year in the Fed. He played a couple games this year before. So he's got 54 games Fed experience. That's it. 1 point. So, yeah. So you see how you can formulate your roster. You can incorporate, you can still keep a lot of your players because some of them might only be 1 or 2 or 3 points. But then you have to be careful about how many guys of Justin McDonald's caliber that you sign. All right. Because, again, your cap is 50 points. All right. Generally, that means you can have a couple of uber experienced guys on your roster. You can have a lot of rookies, a lot of pros, maybe people who are exclusively Fed, and you can still easily fit under the 50-point cap. But it's going to take a lot of thinking and head scratching and balancing, and it's another set of checks and balances. Now, why is the league doing this? All right. It is a well-known secret that isn't secret, that every team um, overpays its players, I guess you can say. You have all your contracts. There is a salary cap in the league, which is $4,000 this year, $4,000 per week. All right. So you do the math. $4,000 divided by uh, 19 or 20. Yeah, you're not giving a whole lot of money to these people. So Justin McDonald, according to his contract, is not making a whole lot of money. He's making $250 a week. I believe that is the maximum individual cap, $250 a week. All right. Of course, in the Fed, you get paid your food stipend and your housing as well. But still, you're going to live on $250 a week. Every team in the league, every one of them, I can promise you that, circumvents this. Maybe they'll hire um, a player to do maintenance work for the team, or odd jobs. So there is under the table compensation happening in addition to the um, the contracts. And the goal by the teams is to get as much experience as possible on your roster. You want experienced guys. You want proven guys, but you only have so much money to go around. So the point system is meant to circumvent that. Just again, a personal belief. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to accomplish anything. But the rules are there, so teams have to figure out how to work around it. All right. That's just the way it is. It's just the way things are in the Fed. There are a lot of things that you and I are aware of. There are a lot of things that you and I are not aware of as far as what goes on in daily life in the Fedzino. So, and money is one of them. Again, it is not a secret that players are compensated by alternate means, but we don't know how much. I mean, hypothetically, and I have no idea. I have no idea what the arrangement is with Jeff Krupp and the Columbus River Dragons and Justin McDonald is. Okay, so I want to go on record as just saying I know what his cap hit is. I know nothing else. All right, so I don't know what they're giving Justin for his services. I mean, he could be making $1,000 a week. I don't know. That is something that is exclusively knowledge between Columbus and Justin McDonald. Again, that's just the way it is. Hey, Justin McDonald has chosen to play at this level. So, I mean, obviously, he's not unhappy with his situation. So, he's here for a reason. So, whatever has been worked out, we don't know. But anyway. All right, so that is a breakdown as far as how rosters have to get constructed this year. A lot of stuff to think about. Be glad you're not a general manager because, man, you got a lot of stuff on your plate. Not only do you have to try and recruit players and sign players and make sure that you're in financial cap compliance and you have enough rookies on your team and you don't have too many veterans. And now you got to also worry about this point slotting system. So it's a lot to think about. GMs have an amazingly complex job to do. That's just the way it is. All right, I've gone on long enough. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this makes sense. We'll talk to you soon.